Conduit. Tonight, we're going to have a great conversation, sustainable community housing solutions with the sustainable economist. And it's going to be Hope Williams this evening. And so we're very excited that she can join us. Let me see if I can give her the horn. Is that the horn? That's not the horn. But we're so thrilled to have her with us this evening. And so we're going to go ahead and bring her on up. Hope, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing so well. I'm excited to talk about housing. This is my most favorite thing. And so thank you so much for having me. It's
Oh,
be here.
well, we're so glad that you can come. I'm going to turn it over to our gracious host, Sean Makarin. Sean, you have a mic there, and then I will let you facilitate the discussion from there.
Hey, Hope, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's nice to see you. Sorry, Tobias is ill.
I will forgive him.
Um, so, John Makarin, and so,
Oh, sorry. I think you might have broken up, or maybe my speakers.
oh no.
Okay, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Yeah. So, all I really try and do is try and emancipate people all day. And what's going on up here in Kitsap County is we're trying to organize some cooperative housing. We're looking at mobile home communities. We're looking at acquiring actual property buildings. We're looking at doing our own development. We're open to anything because we have a huge need and we're kind of lost. So we need some hope to guide us along the way. So, can you kind of tell us about co ops and what we should be thinking about as we look for housing?
Oh my goodness. Yes. I think maybe I can introduce myself a little bit so you know how housing crazed I am, and then um, maybe I can give you a brief overview. We can maybe dig a little bit deeper. I do also. Well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, hello everyone. My name's Hope Williams. My pronouns are she, her. I'm calling to you out of Alone Land here in San Francisco. I've worked with the Sustainable Economies Law Center since June 2020. I'm their co-director for what we call the Radical Real Estate Law School, where we try and reimagine what housing could look like if it was permanently affordable and off the speculative market, and how to be radical about it. I'm also going through their law apprenticeship program, and California is one of 5 states that allows you to bypass law school and be mentored by an attorney. And so I get to teach and practice and learn about the law, and it's absolutely amazing. And then that's my daytime job. The other jobs that I fill my time with, I am the board president for the San Francisco Community Land Trust. We are the only community land trust in San Francisco. I also serve as board president for the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, which is a housing model. The Permanent Real Estate Cooperative is a housing model that I can talk about later when we're talking about cooperatives. They're based in Oakland. And then I'm also on the board for the California Community Land Trust Network, which I think we're up to maybe 60 members now. And then I also do a lot of policy work on the state level, and I'm pretty politically active in general in the Bay Area in San Francisco. That is me. So I guess we could talk about housing all day. I like being solution oriented with like a hint of righteous indignation. I don't know if anyone knows this, but housing is a human right, much like food and water. And I think community land trusts, housing cooperatives in general, are a really good way to just keep housing, like I said before, keep housing permanently affordable and off the speculative market. Now, not everything is perfect, and I'll touch on that when I start talking about why permanent real estate cooperatives are better than community land trusts. But we're just going to start at that level. But I feel like I'm also talking a lot. Should I pause so you can ask questions?
If anyone has a question, go ahead.
No, I think you're doing great.
Yeah, we have no questions.
Oh,
We will later. Hope.
okay. Don't tell me that. I hear. Okay, good. All right. So, y'all, I mean, from what I gathered before, it seems like a community land trust is where you have your eyes set on. Um, and I'm not sure what level we're at. Is it okay if I ask you all questions? I mean,
Yeah.
where are you in the process of your conversations around starting, and we'll just use it as an example, starting a community land trust?
We've actually shifted more towards cooperatives since you and I talked. And Liz and I here and a few other folks, we've started to identify undeveloped land to put our own cooperative housing on. So that's kind of where we're at. And we're looking at 10 acres to do 10 tiny homes with 10 co-residents.
Great. Oh, that's so beautiful. You're going to make me cry. That is so exciting and fearless and wonderful. And I do sometimes I like to start with that there's a reason why all of this can feel scary and overwhelming, and it's because they want it to be. Um, Law is based off the premise of property, and it is not accessible to many. So hopefully I can share that, or hopefully some of you can walk away feeling empowered after this conversation, and also just revel in the fact that you're it's supposed to be hard, but that's okay. And we'll always be here for you. So cooperatives, woo. Okay. So the reason that I like cooperatives, the permanent real estate cooperatives, more than I like the community land trusts is, well, you can have a community land trust and you can have a cooperative within the community land trust model. But time has shown me, experience has shown me in San Francisco and in the state and in the Bay Area that there is kind of a gap. There's a void that cannot be filled with a community land trust and something like a limited equity housing cooperative. So it's, how do I explain this? So the primary thing that I see missing that doesn't resolve all housing problems within the CLT model is the lack of funding, or where that funding is coming from. And I can use specific examples. So in San Francisco, we have a policy called the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, COPA. Super fun. We also live in a world of acronyms, which also makes things inaccessible. So the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act allows qualified nonprofits, housing developers, community land trusts, housing nonprofits to purchase small sites, is what we call them. So multi-unit properties that are on the market that have tenants in them, and allows us to become co-stewards of those properties. So we'll lease the land underneath the building for 99 years, and then the tenants own or the residents own the property on top of it, and they all have shares, and that can make out in many different ways. Now, the issue is, as with any city policy, it has city money attached to it, and you are kind of caught in between the whims of megalomaniac politicians, which I'm quite used to, but I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. So your lives, which are already held on the end of this very precarious thread as tenants, is getting a little bit weaker and weaker and weaker. And so CLTs who need money to purchase these properties and help these residents have less than, because the city is going to do what it wants. Now, if you don't have city money, where else are you going to get money? And I'm sure all of you know this, but you're going to get money from grants. You can get money from private foundations. You can get money, again, from federal government, which also comes with a lot of strings, i.e. paperwork. And there's a lot out there, but it can be really difficult, and money is always the problem, and it's also always the answer. So it's not sustainable. So that's where I like to pivot to a permanent real estate cooperative. And a permanent real estate cooperative is a multi-stakeholder cooperative that blends the community land trust model and the what we call the limited equity cooperative, which is you own shares and you are allowed to sell those shares and move out, but you know, you can get money back from it. Now, the difference between that and a permanent real estate cooperative is that you sell your share, but you're only getting back a finite amount of money. You are not in this business of being in a home in order to make money. You are there in order to keep your fellow people housed and keep the neighborhood going. So in a permanent real estate cooperative and in the state of California, and I looked at the laws for your county and for your state, and it seems like you're kind of the way that you all are set up, because I think the limited equity housing cooperative is defined in your codes. But what is missing and what's missing for us is we want the permanent real estate cooperative to be in the codes so that we can have access to more funds. And that doesn't need to come with a bunch of strings attached, because there's a lot of wiggle room in the politics, but I won't swim too deep in there. So I'll just focus on the model itself. So the permanent real estate cooperative is beautiful because it actually applies to mixed income households. Let's say you live in a 4-unit building, and we'll just talk about San Francisco because this is the life I live right now. We live in a 4-unit building, and there are a bunch of people in tech, and they make $250,000. I do not make $250,000. And in the CLT model and the limited equity housing cooperative, most of the time, neither of those allow for mixed income opportunities. And a permanent real estate cooperative does. It incorporates all of the income levels. It is democratically ran. And the way that it keeps housing off of the speculative market in order to create permanently affordable housing and community controlled land is by, in California, here's what we have. And this is also something you can create as well. Allowing local residents to invest $1,000 in a collective fund, using that money to buy the properties, and then letting the people who already live there stay and build equity while you continue to train each other on how to manage it cooperatively without any landlords. And then having the residents, and this is the multi-shareholder cooperative model. So you have resident owners, you have community owners, you have investor owners, and we'll talk about staff when the permanent real estate cooperative exists in your space, which I hope it does. But residents own a share, investors own shares, and community members own shares. So the best way I can do this is to kind of illustrate it. So we'll talk about my living situation, right? I live in a 4-unit building, and suddenly the house is put on the market. And I don't want to be displaced, and my fellow tenants don't want to be displaced. And generally, what would happen is we would go to a qualified nonprofit, a community land trust, and we would be like, could you help us purchase this $1.2 million building? Because who has $1.2 million? Unfortunately, the community land trust is, beholden to the city, and sometimes the city plays political games and doesn't give them money. But now I'm just digressing. So instead of just going to that community land trust, we instead go to our neighbors, and we're like, hey, neighbor, I've lived here for like 15 years. You love me. I love you. You love all of us. Do you want to like keep us housed and just keep this neighborhood intact? And then we can, as a community, collectively steward this land. And so you go to each of your neighbors, they all buy shares. And the cool thing about this model as well, at the very least within the state of California and the law that we have helped write, is that anyone in the city can purchase a share. Anyone outside of the city in the state of California can purchase a share. And there are a few states outside of the state of California where residents, community owners, investors can also purchase these shares. Now, again, it is not about making money. You're going to get like a 1.2 return. And then when you want to sell your share, you do it with the expectation and knowing that you're not going to get a return back until 3 or 5 years later. You're just doing this out of the goodness of your heart and soul. And I think it's a radically innovative way to do real estate and to do housing. And it's been interesting spreading the word about it because it can kind of break someone's mind when you talk about housing, not in a way that's to make money, but in a way to just be a basic human right, because it's hard to detach those two things. So permanent real estate cooperatives, and then I'm seeing here in the chat some questions. Are these ones that I can answer, or would anyone? I actually really like it when people vocalize their questions as well, just openly. I've talked a lot.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
When you say democratically run, what do you mean?
Everyone gets a vote. Residents get a vote. So any choices or decisions that you make, it needs to be done, and the majority rules. Everyone gets a vote. And so you as a resident get a vote, and the community owners don't get a vote in your housing, but they do get a vote when electing board members. Because, okay, so now this is the extra fun part, the paperwork. So you're a permanent real estate cooperative or you're a cooperative, and we'll just keep it really simple because the permanent real estate cooperative here in California is a not-for-profit, which I don't even want to unpack right now, but let's just say it's like a casual 501c3. 501c3s, you have to file your articles of incorporation, you have to file your paperwork on the federal level to become 501c3, and you need to have a board. Well, you need to have a president, a treasurer, and a secretary. And those people need to be nominated and elected. And that is what the investor owners can do, and that is what the community members can do, and the residents also can vote for those members. But anything to do with their house for the 10 homes on that 10-acre land, for those small homes, residents are the ones who are in control of that. How's that sound? Am I frozen? Sorry, Mary. I hope you're back.
So that means like no more landlords.
100. Actually, so this is interesting because we are so much further in the future than many when it comes to housing at my law center and at the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative. The laws that govern landlords, the laws between landlords and tenants that govern landlord tenants also apply to the permanent real estate cooperative, because you are this not-for-profit that is holding all of this. And if there is a tenant dispute, if there's really any kind of dispute or anything that could fall under the landlord tenant laws, then that is what would govern it. And so what we are trying to do is really thread a needle. And the biggest part of what creates true autonomy is what happens when you create the rules that govern you and your fellow residents. So in your bylaws are fun. Bylaws are hard, but they are worth it. And in your bylaws, you can start from scratch and put whatever rules you want in there that govern you as a body, as a people, as a majority. And creating then as well a barrier between those households and the not-for-profit that holds it. in a way. So that threading of the needle is a little bit difficult, but it becomes a lot easier when people just kind of let their imaginations run away with them and create something from scratch. But you don't have to create it from scratch because we've created it for you. And I have a lot of resources and material that I can send, including how to file this paperwork, including how to write these bylaws, including how to do board of directors, what have you, and just get that ball rolling. Now, one of the things that's really exciting that we're doing right now, because the permanent real estate cooperative, it's not yet codified into law. And right now, we would like permanent real estate cooperatives to receive money from the state, to receive money on the federal level. And if we codify a permanent real estate cooperative, that could open up a whole can of worms, right? There's not enough preemptive thought in the world to see what could happen, because people like to take advantage of other people, and that's just the way that laws are right now, and are well. And so what we're looking at is we're trying to do as much outreach as humanly possible to everyone who's working in this housing sphere, to everyone who we can get an ear or a hold of in government and policy, and preach the good word of this cooperative, so that eventually our definition will be put somewhere within the public comment record, which will then eventually open up the doors for more funding for us. So regulatory process, rather than going the official codifying process. And it's really exciting right now because we are finalizing the definition of a permanent real estate cooperative for the city of Oakland, which is amazing. Because what started off there is that the city of Oakland didn't want to give money to the permanent real estate cooperative because it didn't match the definition of a limited equity housing cooperative. So it's fun and it's a good time, but it's an uphill battle. So maybe we can just keep things simple. And I'm also seeing Reverend, did I miss her answering my previous question?
He asked about listing cooperatives on stock exchanges.
Could you repeat that? Could you repackage that question for me?
Where'd that question go? There it is. Are the shares listed on exchanges?
Are the shares listed on exchanges? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question. And by exchanges, do you mean?
Like this New York Stock Exchange, I think.
No, they're not. No, they're not. But I can also follow up with that. I sounded very confident because I am, but I'm not always right. And as as a future attorney, knowing to both say yes and at the same time. So sorry, that's not. And yes, I can send you those links. Are there any other questions? I can say, if you are at the point where you have identified a plot of land where you would like to build on them, consider what those zoning laws are. Do you want to change them? Consider which district your representative is. So how do people get access to purchase the exchanges? How are they made aware to the public? How do people get access to purchase these shares?
I think you're talking about cooperative development communities with multiple share options. He's wondering how people find out about getting into one of these. I think,
Yeah.
right, Rev?
Rev. Well, I mean, it's constant outreach. Actually, that's the first step for any of this. It's constant outreach. We have regular community meetings. We have regular resident meetings. We have monthly board meetings. And it's just never stopping talking about this opportunity, because when someone with $250,000 who lives in my building hears about an opportunity to purchase shares in a cooperative that will house total strangers in deep East Oakland, I don't know, that a light goes off and a light goes on in their head. And it is just constant outreach. You talk to the people who are already working in this industry of housing. I don't want to call it an industry, actually. That feels a little gross. You talk to people who work in this sphere. You talk to your representatives. And I'm not sure, I couldn't figure out if you all have a city council or board of supervisors. Find out what district that's in and then start talking to them as well. And then even go to the state. And you, everyone sitting here listening to this right now, me ramble, come to one of our East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative meetings, and you can Zoom in, or we can send you more literature on it as well. It is that we are the only one in the country. And the two others that are burgeoning right now is one on the East Coast called Willow Permanent Real Estate Cooperative. They're amazing, led by Black women powerhouses. And then there's the San Francisco Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, which I have formed with the San Francisco Community Land Trust being the fiscal sponsor of the permanent real estate cooperative that I'd like to start here in San Francisco, because I think it should be everywhere. And we're getting a lot closer on the state level as well. And this has taken, oh my goodness, 8 or 10 years to get this far. And I feel like because we've built all of these blocks, I can't wait to just hand them over to you so that you don't have to start from scratch either. But how do you get the word out? You just have to keep talking about it and tell everyone. And I wish it could be a lot more complicated than that, but it isn't.
I haven't really formulated. Hi, Hope. Can you hear me?
I can. What's your name?
I'm Liz. You can't see me. I'm behind Sean.
Hi.
Yeah. So my question, let me see if it's kind of formulated. So we're starting slow, like really slow, but the goal is at 10 to 12, maybe 15 homes.
Mhm.
So that many individuals or families, in homes anywhere from 1,000 square feet on down to where people are comfortable in. And so it's like, if we're starting slow, is it possible not to have 100% occupancy and still go forward?
Totally.
Oh, right.
Actually, that's a lot of fun too, because here's the thing. And this is where a lot of people can get tripped. Actually, that makes me really happy to hear that. Because, and I'll just use this as a weird example. My law center is a non-hierarchical worker cooperative. And we pay each other equitably. There's not an executive director who makes 3 times as much money. We all make the same with a little bit of a difference based on our life circumstances. And it is a very open and transparent process. And I would also love to invite all of you to one of our workshops on that. Equitable pay, compensation, what a concept. But the reason it works for us is because we are very intentional about who we bring in that is ideologically aligned with our values and our mission statement. And it's not to say that it's always easy, because people aren't easy, but it is worth it to be able to work in a place like this. So you have empty units in these properties, and you want to be intentional about who you bring in. What is your mission statement? Do you want to house families? Do you want to create an artist workspace? Do you want to house artists? Do you want to house labor organizers? Do you want to house people who make, you can make any one of these, just kind of, like I said, mixed income. And I think that's actually the hardest part, is really setting in stone what those things are. And actually, I'll take it back. It's never set in stone, and it is always evolving. So that's also something that you should process at the same time as well, and not be overwhelmed by it's always a work in progress. But yeah, woo, awesome. Clean slate. That's great.
Any other questions?
Oh, I would love to be on the conduit to talk about equitable pay process. Woohoo! Yes.
Good job, Mara.
Thank you, Liz, for that question.
Oh, you're welcome.
How
It's on
exciting.
mine. I was like, do we have to have the people?
No, heck no, you don't. You just have to start where you are.
All right.
Mhm.
Build it. They will.
Please, if you have
Do it.
Ready to move in? No.
Let's
Oh, I have
see.
another question.
Oh, yes, Liz, do it.
Okay, so Sean and I, we're really into those cob houses. You're familiar with them?
The cob houses?
Yeah, and zoning and
Yes.
straw bale houses, basically natural. I know that I think California is now built that has a little bit more leniency in them because like the Santa Cruz area has a few and such. So do you
Mhm.
have any experience with those building? I mean, are you familiar with them? I don't know. They're just like a fantasy of ours to live in a mushroom.
I think that's beautiful. I don't have experience in that personally. I can name a couple of coworkers who do. Um, and they actually on their sabbaticals like to travel around and visit all of them. So no, but I think you being that dreamer is a really important part. It really truly is. And yeah, I can't wait to see what y'all are able to do. You know what I'm curious about is are there any barriers that you have right now?
Money.
Right? Okay. All right.
money. Do you have
Money.
some lying around for us?
So funding for affordable housing. Yes, I'm just right behind my ear. I'm just gonna give it to you. Can you feel the money I'm throwing at you? So it's always going to be this. It's always going to be federal funds, state funds, local funds, and then rich people foundations. And I will use this as an example. So San Francisco Community Land Trust, we hold 14 properties right now. One of our more recent acquisitions is a 30-unit building in downtown San Francisco that is predominantly Black and brown and low income. And we are, yes, okay. So how did we afford a building that cost $9 million? We were given $600,000 from a foundation called the Katali Foundation. We were given money from things like the Chan Zuckerberg Institute and the San Francisco Foundation. This is a lot of grant writing. If you have a writer on the team or if you know someone in the community who'd be willing to help write those grants, you got to churn them out. And then on the city level, there are different pots as well. The primary one that's kind of like, ooh, you get some now, you don't, is not the only one that we pull from. And then for yours specifically, and I think I wrote down a proper list. Let's see. You have housing grants for low income residents in Washington. You have housing grants for green homes. There's your mushroom. You have housing grants for minorities in Washington. And then you have the Washington's National Housing Trust Fund program. There's the Housing Preservation Program. And then you have other things, which is also where we get money, like low income housing tax credits, the Urban Development Action Grant Program, what's another one? What's another really good one? You have the Community Development Block Grants. That one's a really popular one. So it's kind of like we have this list of money, but it's like you have to file the paperwork and you have to do your due diligence, and that can be very tedious, but that's where you get started. It is always about the money. Now, are you all are you a legal entity of any kind?
Not yet.
No. Okay, perfect. Do you know which legal entity you're kind of like have your eye on?
We're leaning towards cooperative as an entity. Is that what you're getting at?
Like, are you a registered 501c3 who will have an LLC that will hold the property?
We've not gotten that far yet.
Okay, beautiful. Oh, I love this. Oh, so exciting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to start firing on all cylinders. And I even have I got really into Kitsap County. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was very excited about it. Okay. So the first, let me see. Let me start at the top of my list. So there is, and I'm sure you've pulled a lot of this, and I can just send it to you so it can just be a click away. But Washington actually has a really good how-to book for starting a nonprofit, which is probably where y'all are going to be headed. And you can always reach out if you need more from that. But the first thing you need to do is what you're doing right now is the outreach. So you need to talk to the general public. You need to talk to the existing housing developers in your area. You need to talk to the government funders, the foundations, the grant providers, and other professionals in the field, as in real estate agents, appraisers, insurance agencies. You need to find different attorneys. Now, the thing about this, though, is what you are doing is so beautiful and abstract in this world that it might be hard to find professional support from people that, again, are mission aligned with you, right? You're here to keep each other housed. You're not here to make $1 million. So that's a good one. And actually, we could probably provide you with a couple of contacts. And then the funding, again, you want funding, the foundational funding for the entity, because you can actually, what you could do is you could do what I'm doing right now and what East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative did before they became autonomous. East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, the Law Center was their fiscal sponsor before they left. And now they're just free floating out there on their own and thriving. So what you could do is you could find a nonprofit that can be your fiscal sponsor. And there are different models. By the way, none of this is legal advice. This is just my life experience. Okay. There are different models. There's model A, there's model B, there's model C. I can send you information on that. I'm a big fan of model A because it's like not a lot of, it's very light, easy breezy. There's not a whole heck of a lot going on. I mean, if you decide to have a single staffed person for this new thing, then that fiscal sponsor can handle all the admin. They can handle all the grant processing. They can be your bank account because you're going to be pulling in money like, whoa, because what you're doing is so cool. And then you can graduate out of that and exit the fiscal sponsorship once you're ready to. So it's kind of like you're the child, you're the newborn baby, and the parent is there to feed you and keep you housed. And then once you graduate, you can get out of the house and now be free on your own. I love fiscal sponsorship. It is the coolest thing in the world. I wish everyone knew about it and did them. So you have to establish your plans and your goals. And I know I'm talking about this like you need to form a legal entity, but I'm telling you right now, I would say, let me think here. It's going to be a heck of a lot easier if you are registered. And I would highly recommend going the fiscal sponsorship route because it's nice to have that support. Time is finite, and I hate QuickBooks and Excel sheets, and it's nice to outsource that to someone else. So fiscal sponsorship, woo. So yeah, set your intentions, your plans, your goals. Figure out who your target is. Obviously, it's you. Figure out your service area. Obviously, that's Kitsap County. And then, put the range of mixed incomes that you want. Mixed being the priority word there. And then apply for an employee identification number. These are a lot of fun steps, and I don't want to go through those ones because those are kind of boring. But and then what your housing needs are. So you need money. That money is going to go to different things. But when we're talking about land acquisition and purchasing, this money needs to go towards land acquisition, pre-development feasibility, which I'm seeing a plot of land and I'm thinking like, okay, what is it zoned for? What kind of sewage septic tanks do you need to have? You know, like all the nuts and bolts. You need to have the architectural design, which means that an architect comes out of nowhere from on high and helps you develop what you would like this to look like. And in infrastructure development, construction. I'm not going to go for rehabilitation right now, but I will say that once you build these properties, they will come. But the rehabilitation is going to start at some point in time. And the way that East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative does is that pool of money is part of the rehabilitation fund. So if they need a new roof, they can pull from the pot of money that is the collective pot that was gathered by community owners, investor owners, resident owners, and the staff owners. Because if you are an entity and you are fiscally sponsored, obviously I have an agenda here, a staff member can also be can also be a member as well, or a staff member can also own a share as well. And you can also own multiple shares. But since you're not a resident and you're staff, your vote only goes towards nominating and electing board members. And then you're going to want to think about down payment assistance. You're going to want to think about permanent financing. And then what it will look like in these financing stages is most in an ideal world, the acquisition of the financing is 60% of it would come from a bank. This is the other thing, identifying a bank. So in California and the San Francisco Land Trust and a lot of other nonprofits in housing use a bank called Self-Help Credit Union. These are banks that see inspiring things happening in the community and they're like, oh my gosh, we want to help. And then you have, let's see, there's so many things. I feel like I'm just jumping around, but there's a lot. And I'm just going through a little bit more. Yep, community and smaller banks that whose portfolios want to loan out to projects like yours, private lenders. Let's see. And then there's crowdfunding. And when we at San Francisco Community Land Trust were in the process of raising funds to purchase that 30-unit building, $9 million, part of what we raised was through crowdfunding, and there are specific rules around crowdfunding. I can't just say it's GoFundMe because there are different types of crowdfunding sources. And then let's see, what else? Yeah, I know it's always about the money. It's always, and it's, but if it were easy, everyone would do it, but it is possible. I think one of the other important things to do is to spend as much time with me as humanly possible at the Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, at the Sustainable Economies Law Center, because what we do is we do something called mutual aid, which is sounds like a pipe dream, but it's real. We want to be as open sourced as humanly possible, and we are. 3 times a month, we host something called a legal cafe. And unfortunately, the only in-person cafes we have are in Oakland, but we also have them online, and I host them. And what you do is you come in, this is free, you come in with a legal question, like you write it in on your intake form. This crazy person named Hope talked to us for 2 hours. She kept talking about fiscal sponsorship agreements and entity formation and crowdfunding. And I have no idea what she was saying, but I think we should start here. You come in and I pair you up with an attorney, actually sometimes more than one. And then you spend 35 to 45 minutes with these attorneys and they'll get you started, even though I'm pretty sure I'll have you set up by the end of this. With the amount of things I'm going to send you that are really fun to read and really accessible. So we have that 3 times a month. You can come as many times as you want to. And I think a good way, because we do sell out often, is when you submit your intake, you can put a little note in there that says, I'm from Kitsap County, and I'll know who you are, and I'll make sure that you get in so you can see an attorney, because I am biased and I want you to thrive. Yes. Remote legal cafes. And then join our newsletter. Like I said before, we have a lot of different events. The Equitable Pay one, we talk about land every day, and it's what brings me joy and gives me life. And so I'm just happy to share it with as many people who will accept. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, and now I'm at the point again where I feel I've been talking too much. Liz, did you have another question?
No. Not right now. It's like, let's go shopping.
Mine will come at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, write them down.
Do you know what the zoning laws are, or what the zoning is for that plot of land that you're looking at? Do you know what they are?
Yeah, there's I think we've got like urban mid, urban high. So like in urban areas they allow, I can't remember what those are, but the main stuff we're coming across is rural residential.
Okay.
And it's like, I think it's, the requirement is like one house per 5 acres or something like that.
Okay.
And then the other option we've been looking around at is there are some, God, the word, what's the zoning exception? We can get conditional use for mobile home parks and tiny home parks. So that's kind of where we've been steering, towards the rural areas and the mobile home parks.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. And I think I cut you off. Was there?
No, that's it. I have my notes on the zoning somewhere, but I can send it to you later.
Sure, yeah, because one of the things that I would actually like as well out of this, in chatting with y'all, is to kind of hone in a little bit closer on like where the focus can be. And when you do come in and talk to the licensed attorneys, it'll be a lot more effective and faster for you. So then you can just, this will move a lot faster. The mobile home parks, when you brought that up at the beginning of the conversation, when I asked what y'all were looking at, I was like, oh, nuts, because that is happening right now. That's happening all over the place. Some really amazing things are being done. And for a moment, about a year ago, I was talking to someone who lives on the coast, who was wanting to do the same thing. And of course, it's a lot of work for one person, but I would love to do more on that as well. So that's really, that's fantastic. So in Kitsap County, who are your elected officials in Kitsap County? Is that a weird question? This is how my brain works, because I also used to run political campaigns. But hey,
Do you mean as far as county commissioners or okay, do you know who they are?
county.
I'm in district. I forget.
Oh yeah, districts. Who's your district representative for
Congress?
Yeah.
So
I
for
have
our state representative on the district level, it's Emily Randall, Tara Simmons. I can't remember our senator, the Republican.
That's okay. Do you Emily Randall. Okay. Tara Simmons. Awesome. Do you, maybe I'm not asking this in the right, or maybe watching, Derek Kilmer. So and this is, I'm kind of bad at relaying questions or thoughts or ideas sometimes, but in San Francisco is split up into 11 different districts. So I'm in District 8, and I elected a board supervisor for this district, one mayor, and council. Yes. And how is your Now, the reason I'm going to say this is important is because this is a part of the outreach. And sometimes people don't like talking to politicians, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. But it's necessary once you start looking at whether or not you want to change zoning. Like, for example, yeah, Mary, you rock. Look at you. All of you are awesome. I'm just making some notes. For example, we have a client who wants to build property on their land. It is an indigenous tribe, and it is not zoned for building. And if the supervisors of that county had any kind, well, I could be a little bit dark about this, but if it helps to build a relationship with these people, at the very least have a conversation, and just take it from there, because it's just helpful. It's not going to harm you. And then that is different zoning than Kitsap. Oh yeah, we're getting specific. Look at this. This is good. So if you
Yeah, each city has a little bit different zoning. Like if we were to look at the Silverdale urban area, that might have different zoning. If we had Poulsbo, a rural area, it might have different zoning. So we'd have to look. We're looking at all that.
do you
So
know do you
yeah,
have the parcel
it's
number?
a lot of unpacking, but it's doable.
I know, no, this is what it is. This is what myself and my coworkers do every single day is we unpack stuff like this. It's almost like you're power mapping with also unpacking all of the little bits and pieces that are going to make this all possible. So this is like, I love looking at things like this.
You want to look up a piece of property? Is that what you're getting at?
You're if I'm just curious about the parcel number.
Yeah, you want me to put? I can have Marwan put one in the chat. If Marwan would oblige, I do.
Because in my mind, if I have enough information, then this is helpful for me when I am going to pair y'all with an attorney and just get you going. But now I'm also seeing that this is a podcast, and maybe the people who are oh, sorry. And what else can I answer here? I mean, is there any like lingering question? Is there any kind of like something that people may think is a silly question, but isn't a silly question? And selfishly, I'd like you to ask me because I love talking about this all the time. Oh, thank you. There it is.
Yeah, so this is one of the places we're looking at. It's got a development, it's got an existing structure on it, and we're looking to add ADUs to all the available acreage. And it's zoned.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good, because I still have my eye on that one farmhouse.
yeah. And this is kind of the profile we've been lucky with so far, like a main house with space for ADUs type structures.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You know what? I feel super rude. I don't know what your origin story is.
Our what?
Your origin story. How do you all know each other, and how have
Oh,
you how long have you been plotting this journey?
Geez, yeah. Since I think Liz and I met around first week of June, and we really started talking about this back in September. And I think, I don't know, we're both in the IWW together. We're both tired of the world that's taking a crap on us every day. I'll put it this way: you'd have to be dumb and rich to think everything's okay today. And, Liz and I have been in our own safe space, our own house, and we
and build that community, that sense of trust with each other, and be able to house those people that it's just like have the least opportunity.
Yeah.
Build that community where we have each other's backs.
Love that.
Next to Liz the rest of my life.
Oh God, no.
Aww.
Yeah, I'm sick of the system. I've been getting dumped on by. I'm Native American. I've been getting dumped on by white folks my whole life. I'm sick of it. So that's my motivation.
Yeah, take back the power, and if it's not there, just keep pulling. This is one of the things that I learned, and I know I'm 33 years old. I haven't been around for too long, but one of the things I learned is that if I keep saying it, then they're going to hear me, and then it's going to creep into their minds, and then eventually they're going to co-opt the idea like it's their own. But ultimately, we'll win through that, and no, I 100% can identify with that. Yeah, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Okay. Sean just asked me why I'm in it. Oh, there's my head. So basically, so
Hi.
so I'm in it because I'm getting older. I've had opportunities to own my own home, and it's a lot of work. And I was alone in the property. This was in another state, and I want to build that sense of community, that sense of just reaching out to others. And I'm also I am a solitary person at times, so it's nice to have that. But it's also wonderful to be able to know that you're not alone in this world. So that's great. And I also want to be able to come home to community that I know that people are like that people probably thought that nobody cared. And now they have some place that they know people care for them. Yeah. And to be safe. So we're looking at gardens, we're looking at animals, we're looking at all that. That's also why we're leaning more towards a rural. So ideally, if we could, a property that already exists, and then maybe see what we can do on it as well.
I love that. Thank you both for sharing so much. And I also want to ask the people too. I think it's your left. I see some really cute shoes, and I'm like, who are you? But I wanted to share that the permanent real estate cooperative model can also apply to small businesses. So same example, except we'll talk about my favorite. Well, there's a delicious bakery that's like 400 feet away from my front door. And if they were about to go under, they would do the same thing as I would as a tenant going through the situation, which is I would go to everyone in the community and ask if they could purchase a share. So then suddenly it's not just the workers who own it, but the entire block. So many people in San Francisco have a share in that. It's not mine. It's everyone's. I wish it was mine. It could be if I owned a share, but in a permanent real estate cooperative model. Okay. Yeah. So East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative recently had enough shares raised to purchase a commercial space in downtown Oakland that they are converting into they're rezoning it for residential housing. They are putting in spaces that will be occupied by Black owned businesses. And then outside of that property, alongside of it, they're also putting in a community garden. It's amazing. And that entire thing is owned by community members in Oakland, even ones who don't use it. People who live in Indianapolis. It's crazy. Okay. Person with the really cute, actually, both of you have really nice shoes. I don't know.
Yeah, my name is Lee. Up until very recently, like just a month ago, I was living 3 hours north up in Whatcom County, kind of near the Canadian border. And up there, I was working in homeless housing. I was a case manager, and I lived there for almost a decade. And so I became familiar with what resources were there and what barriers that homeless individuals are facing and what marginalized communities are facing up there. And since I recently moved back down to Kitsap County, I saw this event at a poster while I was downtown, and I was interested in going just to, I guess, hear about like what solutions that my community was looking at for housing and facing the housing crisis. And yeah, it's been really nice, especially to hear about everything that you've been talking about down in California and the different solutions. It's been really interesting.
Lee, that's your name?
Yes, Lee.
Lee. Lee, oh my gosh. Talk about the unhoused in California, in San Francisco. It is the most heart. It's practically unspeakable. I can only, I can, those barriers are real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely tragic. And I'm glad that you are someone that is working within that space to make a difference, because they need every single person humanly possible. Here's one, if you want to get a little bit more into the weeds of what kind of policies could be passed in order to resolve something, not resolve, but help. In San Francisco, we made it a ballot item where every corporation that makes over $50 million is taxed. And then that money is put into a fund specifically for the unhoused and their services. And I love the snaps to that because it was super exciting. It's wild. I'm so glad it passed. But the problem, and this is what happens, is this is why you want autonomy, and this is why you don't want to just rely on the government, is that money is now being held hostage by certain elected officials in this city. So it's almost $1 billion that is not being touched right now, because of the reasons I don't need to really burn into. But yeah, the sweeps and everything. Actually, Lee, you might like this as well. The Coalition of Homelessness. I'm also a member of the Anti-Displacement Coalition in San Francisco. My background is in tenants' rights. And so working a lot within that field. But the Coalition of Homelessness just sued San Francisco because of the sweeps. And it is devastating because it happens right in front of your eyes. Is they tear away these folks' possessions and toss them into a dump truck and then throw it all away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's heinous. And a judge just ruled in their favor, not theirs, but the Coalition of Homelessness. And so it's actually looking like something can come of it, but it's the most devastating. Yeah, Jeff, it's terrible. Please speak out. Yes, yell it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Lee. All right. What is your name?
Hi, I'm Jules. I have a really interesting up and down story, but I'll try to keep it short. My ex experienced homelessness, and then recently I was in a car crash and I was unable to have secure housing. And so I was kind of all over the place, up and down. I ended up working at a nonprofit that was focused on hiring those that were experiencing homelessness. And as I got kind of more into the organization, it was very clear to me how each of those individuals were being misused. Were just it was under a guise of, we want to hear what you have to say and we want to know your experience and all of that. But as soon as you gave your experience or as soon as you gave your opinion, you were shut down. And it was, we talked about this earlier, I know what's best for you was really the rhetoric. And so, unfortunately, it was really eye-opening to see different sides of a life that I hadn't experienced before, seeing those that were struggling with addiction or physical health being put in positions where they were like laborers when they were physically incapable of doing so, or mentally incapable of doing so. So, yeah, I have a very soft spot in my heart for community and for actually hearing people and truly letting them tell you what their experience is to then support them in ways that they need.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, that's such a journey, truly. And the thing that got me mad was the part where they know what's best. It happens a lot. In fact, in Oakland, I mean, it happens everywhere for sure. In Oakland, one of the ones that still gets me going is the city asked for the community's input on the future of housing in Oakland. And they're like, okay, groups, organizations, put together a plan of what you would like to see. And they definitely chose the whitest firm, the whitest, like the just the people who are not even based in Oakland, who don't even look like Oakland, planning the future of the city. And then to quell all of what that created, they had an open forum where community members could come and talk. But what happens in those situations more often than not is that they take that language and they use you as a number to say, oh no, but we talked to everyone. And then they just do what they feel like doing. And that's really very frustrating. But one of the things that brought to mind as you were sharing that, one of our clients' homefulness, and I think I could put it in this. Oh yeah. Oh, Rev. Rev, did you want to share that out to Jules? Can you read it? Jules, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Poor Magazine, I think. Is that?
So it's Poor Magazine, Homefulness. It's a project. And what Homefulness did is actually quite almost like what you all want to do. You're like, there's a plot of land. We want to build on it so that we can house all of the unhoused, because that's what their organization is. And the city they built the houses, and then the city wouldn't let them live there because they didn't have enough parking spaces installed.
Oh my gosh.
What? So we've gotten that resolved and it's moving forward. But my goodness, the kinds of things that you will come up against when trying to do something like this. But they're such an inspiration, and I would highly recommend giving them checking them out. They make life worth living, having people like that on this planet. So thank you, Jules, for sharing.
Yeah.
And Jules, the Reverend Michael Ellington, would love if you could share more of your story with them at some point in time. But no.
Yeah, I did see that comment, and I also got a business card.
Oh, great. Okay. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone sharing these stories. It's so refreshing to be amongst like-minded individuals, radicalized. Even why is it radicalized when we just want to house people, when we just want to keep our communities together? But I will always be here for you, and our law center will always be here for you. And it is not just us who are in this movement. There is a huge community in this movement, and we know a lot of them. And so one of the things when you're coming, if you decide to come to the cafe, the legal cafe for legal advice, which I hope you do, it'll be a little bit more generalized because being based in California, not in Washington, are going to be different. But on that same side, we also know attorneys in Washington, and we can hopefully help. I think we can help. Let's start a movement. It's already started. Let's keep building. Yeah. Jules, is there anyone else in that room that I don't see?
That's it.
I think that's it.
Okay. Are there any other lingering questions or stories anyone would like to share? I'm so excited for all of you. It's just so cool and unique it's just wonderful. Yeah.
We're just traveling around the room now.
Woo!
You only need 2 people to start, and we've got 4. So
There you
That's
go.
more than most. I mean, you're already looking at lots of land and being like, we can envision this. How do we do it? That's amazing. And I really, really, really hope that I kind of gave you like some direction. I don't know.
we helped a lot.
I do have one question. I don't know. Have you guys started looking into social media and promoting?
Not yet.
Okay.
In real life, it works for me.
We'd be open to anyone who wants to do social media with us, though.
They open it to the universe.
Yeah.
Here's actually, Jules, Jules, sorry if I cut you off.
Oh.
So one of the things that I've learned working in this field is that I hate doing social media. I don't like doing the admin work, but you know what I really like? I really like working with our lobbyists and drafting state policy. And so our law center being that non-hierarchical worker cooperative, the way that we govern ourselves is very different and unique. We all take on different roles at all times when it's needed, and we're always there to back each other up. So if our communications person, one day she's brilliant and amazing and no one can do her job like she can, but she can train me on how to do her job so that she can, step away from it from time to time. And y'all can just like switch hats.
Mm-hmm.
Just have that instead of just, bearing the burden of posting on Twitter, which love. But yeah, there's other ways. So there is one particular website builder that I really like that's really friendly and can actually do a lot of things for you. Like it tracks donations and it's like really user friendly and there are a lot of different things. So when you're up to that point, which can come later, like I can definitely share that with you. It's actually a lot of fun. But I would think fiscal sponsorship would be helpful. Actually, I was looking in Washington, and do you all know the Homestead Community Land Trust in Washington?
Oh, I don't know.
So let's just say that Homestead Community Land Trust are good people who do good things, and we just hope for the best. And you reach out to them, and you have this idea that is now fully fleshed out because you've talked to me a million times, and you've talked to our attorneys a million times, and you're set and you're ready to go. And you're like, will you be our fiscal sponsor for this? That could be support there because they already have the infrastructure. But you can also go to other nonprofits to be fiscally sponsored by them as well. It doesn't just have to be a community land trust, it could be others. Oh, good, Jeff. I'm happy to hear that. Sometimes I'm skeptical when people are in housing and I'm like, I'm glad. Okay. Yeah. Oh, nice. Look at this, Rev. Y'all, just getting it. You're like taking all the boxes.
I'm gonna text them bragging like that.
Oh my goodness. It is so funny to me. Like, we have people go on parental leave and we have people go on sabbatical. And then it's like, okay, who would like to learn about finances? And one of my coworkers will be over the moon to learn about it. And I'm like, I would rather die. So it's like, you gotta, when you have people like yourselves together in a space and you're going to keep growing that group and you have a list of tasks and one of them looks horrendous, there's going to be someone like Rev who's like, no, I would love to build that website. And that's incredible. That's called sweat equity, people. That's wonderful.
The build as it's going on.
Yeah.
Is there anything
That's
else?
my thing. I was like, wait a minute. I'm very limited in social media. That's why
Hilarious.
yeah.
Bless bless everyone who's willing to do those jobs that I don't want to do. But I will do them if need be, because it's part of being a part of this, I don't know, this life together. Yeah, Reb does win. That's hilarious. It's true, Sean. It's true. Best comment of the night.
I misspelled it.
Oh my goodness. So I guess what can I do to be most helpful right now? I can send you a list of resources.
The steps. Yeah. The steps.
The steps.
Sorry. The steps, like we were discussing, like I started to write them down. I said she's probably just going to send these to us. So let me see. Let me go.
I'm a hand note taker too. That's how I retain.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of grants and some steps, grant sources and some, I think, some steps.
Exactly.
But it's exactly-
Yeah, so just sort of send us that. Or I can go back through this video and write.
No. Let me do the labor. Don't you dare. You showed up. You put in your time. You're doing most of the work here.
Liz is doing most of the work. So.
Well, it's for my 501c3 application. Okay, we have a guide. Okay, so what we also produce as a law center are things called legal bite-sized guides, because the other thing that we hate at the law center is the law, because it is so radically inaccessible for people. We want to make it as palatable and as easy as humanly possible. So I will send you that information: how to start a fiscal sponsorship agreement, how to form a 501c3, how to choose which entity you want to do, which you don't even have to think about that right now, because you could just come talk to our lawyers for free and figure that out in that moment. So I will definitely send out all the steps, and then we'll take over the world. It'll be great.
Definitely send out the steps that we need before we talk to one of your professionals.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I'll also poke around in our kind of listserv to see if there are attorneys in your state that are of the same ilk as we are.
I have a question. Is it even worth it to talk to real estate agents and finding the right one that works with
Good question.
this sort of program? Because real estate is all about building capital on land.
Yep.
That's not what we're all about.
So we have this small growing pool of what we call radical real estate agents who got licensed just so that they could dismantle the system. And so they are out there. And right now we are actually working on a toolkit that makes it so that you can do the real estate transaction without hiring anyone.
Whoa. Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Yeah. That's how they make their money. They're like, oh, you don't know how to do this because we made it so you don't know how to do this. We want you to know how to do it.
Then they all show up and everyone takes their cut. The seller and the buyer have an agent who somehow know each other. I don't know how it turns out.
The guy you just signed the paper.
Yeah.
Wild. Or you
We don't like lawyers.
Yeah.
We don't like,
yeah.
We're not big on lawyers here either.
No, we despise lawyers. Actually, I'm not even joking. We're lawyers because we want to break the system and give it back to you. Yeah, for free. For sure. Definitely. Oh, I'm so excited. You can do this. The only reason I sound moderately confident in any of the things that I'm saying is because I have learned through osmosis and I've learned through doing for the last I'm working in tenants' rights for the last 7 years. And like, to me, it seems possible. And I just want to make it seem possible to you all and just continue to reassure you that you have us as a resource. Yes, starting there. Mm-hmm.
Should we wrap up now? Well, Hope, thank you for coming. And I don't know, this is really enlightening. I feel much more confident than I did before. And I am a lawyer, so this has just been amazing. Thank you for coming out, and we're going to reach out to you again and see you some more.
Great. And I'm going to send you those resources and I'm going to send you those steps, and then the future is yours. Will be
And I
great.
think you're going to have to come back because to talk
Yes.
about equity with Marwan.
Woo! Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness.
All right. Well,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I think we wrap it.
Nice meeting all of you.
You too.
This has been the. Do I want to sign off? I don't have the right to sign off on your channel, Mr. Marwan Cameron. I'm just a guest in your house.
All right, Hope. We want to thank you for coming on. This was tremendously informative. And I've got your email now, so I might stalk you a little bit, you know, get some more information. But you said a lot of things tonight that I've never heard before. And I know that there were several other people that haven't heard this. And it's very empowering and very inspiring also. So just a pleasure to meet you. And I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more.
You as well. I can't wait. This is this beginning of a beautiful friendship, everyone. And I will be seeing you soon, I know. So thanks for having me on. Should I click out too and sign off?
Oh, no. You can if you want. But I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Again, every first Friday of the month, we'll be having a different topic. So do tune in. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, everyone in the chat. Jeff, Reverend Ellington, Mary. I know Rob was on there. Quite a few people dipping in and out. Chat was active tonight, which is fantastic. So again, keep it coming. Also, let me put up. Yeah, what is the next event, Sean?
First Friday of February. Ben Burgess is going to come speak with us about progressive alternatives to conservatism. Ben Burgess is a colleague of mine, and he's a very well-versed scholar in everything left. And then in March, the labor professor we all love, Harvey Kay, is going to come speak with us about America's history and maybe help break up some of the myths about how America became America. So we're going to discuss our radical past with Harvey, and he's really excited to come talk to us. He texts me like every day about it. So come back in March, Harvey and Ben.
All right, and then also, will you tell folks how to get access to your newsletter?
Oh, we're transitioning.
Oh, you are? Okay.
We're transitioning. We had a newsletter going on this, but we're transitioning to some organizing campaigns. So I'll have Marwan drop my email in here, and if anyone who got that newsletter wants to follow up, you can reach out to me. Thanks, Marwan.
You got it. Why don't you hold that for a second so I can grab your email?
Let's just do.
No next event is tomorrow. Worship and then no cap recap. Yep.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Don't forget church.
Well, I love you.
We're gonna transition it to. I want to transition it to like more community meetings.
All right, everyone. I am Marwan Cameron. This is The Conduit. We will see you next time. Tune in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and let everyone know. All right. We will see you next time. Goodbye, Hope. Pleasure to meet you.